Hey, how's it going, everybody? We've seen quite a few videos lately of the Infographics show, and I really do like this channel, and I like this guy. I mean, the whole cartoonish type things that he, figures that he uses to portray what he's talking about is pretty cool. And you actually learn something when you watch these videos, and I like that. I like not just the entertainment aspect, but also the learning process, the learning aspect of it. It makes everything much better, in my opinion. This is European Union versus the United States, EU versus USA 2017. Who would win? Army/military comparison. Quite curious. Let's get right into it.
The world watched in wonder when in 1993 the European Union was officially formed. Questions abounded. Would the UK and France finally be able to live harmoniously in perpetuity? Would Germany and the rest of Europe finally form an unbreakable alliance? With a currency to rival that of the US and the combined military might of 28 different countries, the EU could easily be one of America's greatest trading partners or one of its most menacing foes. Although the American and European alliance is the strongest today than it's ever been, we thought it would be interesting to compare the military might of these two powerhouses and determine who would most likely win in a theoretical war in this episode of the Infographics show, the European Union versus the United States of America.
Let's see. Curious.
Although money isn't everything, the first major difference worth pointing out is military spending. The annual defense budget of the European Union, which still includes the UK even though they recently voted to Brexit, is $227 billion, or 3 times smaller than the United States' annual defense budget of $664 billion. When it comes to manpower, the EU has a population of 743 million people, with 1.4 million being active military personnel and 1.7 million being reserve personnel. The United States has a population of 324 million people, with 1.4 million being active military personnel and 1.1 million being reserve personnel. With programs such as Sabre Strike, the 7th Army Training Command, and the Atlantic Resolve...
I like this guy. I like the art is really cool that he uses, I gotta say. Really fucking nice.
It's safe to assume that the close connection between the US and the EU has resulted in reasonably similar training for the army personnel of each country. In terms of land systems, the EU and the US are also similarly matched. The EU has 6,700 tanks, 48,971 AFVs, 2,312 SPGs, 3,492 towed artillery, and 1,069 MLRSs. The US, on the other hand, has a fleet of 8,848 tanks, 41,000 AFVs, 1,934 SPGs, 1,300 towed artillery, and 1,331 MLRSs. Despite the US having a larger number of ground tanks, Germany makes one of the top-ranked tanks, the Leopard 2, which has been purchased in the hundreds by countries all over Europe. It should be noted that while the US has troops and missiles stationed in Europe, there are no European army bases in the US. This is an obvious advantage.
Yeah, there's a lot of garrisons in, for example, where I'm from. There's many. I mean, there's Ramstein, for example. There was Heidelberg. There's Wiesbaden. There are quite a few here. Yeah.
To the US, who could more easily bring the battle to European soil, keeping it away from the plants which manufacture American weapons.
What did it say? It would take Voyager. Oh wait, that's something else.
And again turning Europe into a war zone similar to World War II. Of the US missiles on European soil, the Aegis Ashore Missile Defense System, located in Romania, has recently gone online and is manned by 130 US sailors. This defense system is currently run by NATO, but in the case of a US-EU war, it would become an ideal base for the US on European soil.
Yeah.
With regard to air power, the US currently has a larger and more modern air force with 13,444 aircraft, the most popular being the American-made F-16 Fighting Falcon. The EU has less than half that, with 6,751 total aircraft, the most popular being the Eurofighter Typhoon. Since the US and the European Union are on 2 different continents, it's important to take a look at each country's naval power. The EU has a total of 61 submarines, 102 frigates, 21 destroyers, 39 corvettes, 167 mine warfare craft, and 210 patrol craft. The United States, on the other hand, has 75 submarines, 6 frigates, 62 destroyers, 0 corvettes, 11 mine warfare craft, and 13 patrol craft.
Yeah, the thing is though, there's many, how do I say this? When you see, for example, 167 against 11, right? It really depends where the US has less. the EU. You know, I mean, for example, if let's put it this way, if the European Union didn't possess any type of nukes, for example, but the US has, you know, I mean, but it has any type of nukes, but the US has, but it had, you know, and then the EU has tons of other things, you know, in excess compared to US. Well, it doesn't matter because the nuke, well, you know, kind of hard to beat that. So it really depends on what they have more and what they have left. It depends on, you know, only some things really count.
The two seem pretty tied, however the EU only has 8 aircraft carriers compared to the US's 19.
Damn.
In the unlikely scenario that nuclear weapons are used, the US has a stockpile of 6,800 nuclear warheads with 150 nuclear warheads located directly in Europe.
Yeah.
Europe barely has 500 nuclear warheads of its own, split nearly evenly between the UK and France. As we all know, a major component of this military assessment is fuel, since almost every ground vehicle, aircraft, and naval unit needs fuel in order to operate. The European Union produces only 1.7 million barrels of oil a day and consumes almost 8 times that each day. It also has 5.6 billion barrels of oil in reserve. The United States produces 9 million barrels of oil a day and consumes 19 million barrels daily, though it has 37 billion barrels of oil in reserve. It is safe to say both countries would need to rely on importing oil from other countries.
Yeah.
The EU and the US share most of their allies, and it would be very interesting to see who allies with whom. As many will point out, experience is also a major factor when assessing military prowess. The EU and the US have been involved in the same wars for the last decade. However, the US military exists as a unified entity, and the EU runs much of their military on a country-by-country basis, making communication and tactical planning much more complicated. When it comes to the all-seeing eyes from space, both the European Union and the United States run their own global navigation satellite systems. The US has GPS, and the EU has Galileo. GPS used to have the capability to block civilian signals called selective availability. One of the main reasons the EU developed Galileo was due to its concern that the US could deny others access to GPS
I think I'm lost to get the guy down there.
During political disagreements. The two came to a compromise, and the US is now in the process of replacing old GPS satellites with new ones that will not have selective availability enabled. So, who do you think would win the war, the US or the EU?
US. I'm putting it all in. I go all in. US would win. I'm pretty sure. One thing, it's you got to think about it this way. The US is one country. It's, you know, one people, one group of people, and you know, they know each other, right? I mean, the EU consists of a bunch of different cultures, a bunch of different people, a bunch of different languages, you know, so the whole communication part would already be way more difficult, you know, and if a war was to break out, it would not take years, you know, and that's for sure, right? It would be split decisions, you know, it'd have to be made. I put my money on the US 100%. Yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? It's quite interesting to see how much US spends on military and how much the EU actually spends on military. And keep in mind, EU is it's tons of countries together. The US is just one country, but then again, the US is a powerhouse. You know, you can't deny it. And it's gigantic. You know, we just the other day, if you haven't seen the video, check it out. How big is the USA? Ooh, damn, it's big. It's big. I've always, when I was growing up, I always heard people say, "Oh, Texas is as big as Germany," but even that's not the case. Texas is almost twice the size than Germany, but Germany has quite a lot of people compared to its size. Right. Anyways, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have anything else to recommend, let me know in the comments. I would really appreciate it. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good one. Bye.